Welcome to the Superconscious Success Podcast, where Jen and her Superconscious Success family co-hosts bring you valuable content each and every week on topics relating to manifestation, spirituality, and most of all, using your superconscious to manifest success in all areas of your life. Now on to today's episode.
Hey there, Superconscious Success fam. Just before we get into the interview, this is just a brief message. This is actually a recording of the 2021 Superconscious Success Summit interviews. If you do want to check out the introductory for all of the guests, then you can go across to our Superconscious Success YouTube channel where you'll be able to find all the introductions. These particular podcast interviews will be the interview only. Okay, thank you. Now let's get on to the interview. Hi there, Superconscious Success fam. Welcome back to the Superconscious Success Super Summit. Today we are back with Doretta Gadsden. If you have not yet heard her story, you really have to go to YouTube, to the Superconscious Success YouTube channel and check it out because it is really inspirational. Doretta is an absolutely remarkable woman who teaches others about the power of forgiveness. And this is something that you really need to implement in your life, because if you are feeling stuck, you are feeling like you're not worthy, or any of the above, then forgiveness is something that we really need to work on. So hi Doretta, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. And yourself?
Oh, I am incredible, and I'm really looking forward to our interview today because I think you can bring some real nuggets to people as to how to forgive and why forgiveness is so important, and what can happen if we don't learn to forgive. So let's start off by just talking about what is forgiveness. Like, if you were to define it, what would be the definition?
I think forgiveness is a choice that you choose to be free.
Mm-hmm.
A choice for you to step out of bondage. A choice that you make to live your best, to be your best self. Yeah. That's what I think forgiveness is. It's a choice for freedom.
Absolutely. And
for peace.
And I think the thing is forgiveness is such a big topic because all of us go through some adversities in our life, and I believe that adversities are put there to help us grow. And we were talking in the interview, the pre-interview that's on YouTube, about how, you know, forgiveness is a like you said, it's a choice, but it's also, it can cause a lot of tension that's felt within your body. And I would like you to just go in a little bit for me as to how emotions play a part when it comes to forgiveness, because the adversities that we go through, such as the ones that you have gone through, with the incest with your father, with the AIDS diagnosis, cancer, losing your husband, you've been through quite a lot, haven't you, Doretta?
I have, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I have.
And I would say that there was a lot of anger and resentment that had built up over that time. And so I was just curious as to what emotions like anger, resentment, guilt, shame, all of those emotions have when it comes to forgiving not only other people but also ourselves.
Well, and you really touched on a lot, Jennifer, because I've felt many things. Against my father and the women that didn't protect me against him, I held on to anger and resentment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That point that it had happened to me, I felt shame and little.
Yeah.
And like I wasn't worthy.
Yeah.
For myself, I became a drug addict. So I have 3 children that I didn't raise. So I felt guilt,
Yes.
anger towards myself, shame that I couldn't be a good mother. I mean, it took me years to forgive myself. That used to sting me. So it's many, many things that I have had to forgive myself, others, and, you know, just life in general for, and just choose my peace of mind and know that I can't go back and redo anything. I could start today. I often say, I may have been a piss poor mother because of my drug addiction, but I'm a hell of a grandmother. I'm a hell of a nana. That's for sure. I could live my best day today. Now, me holding on to what I could have done or who my father could have been, because I used to stay there. Why couldn't he have been a different man? Why couldn't he? Because my father loved me.
Yeah.
He treated me very specially, but he also crossed a line. And that's what people, many people in my life, even my husband, up to the day he died, he could not understand why my father was still in my life.
Yeah.
Because I had done my forgiveness work. He didn't understand that. He was like, this man ruined your life, or I allowed him that act to affect my life for many years.
Yeah.
But I made the choice to free myself from that, or I would still be getting high, or I would still be suffering, or I would still be a miserable person. I was miserable then.
Yeah.
I was
And
angry
so-
all the time. I was abusing people around me. When we hold on to anger, resentment, and shame and guilt, we bleed on everybody around us. Isn't it? We don't just hurt ourselves, but our attitude comes out on other people. And so our relationships are murky. Not just that one relationship, all of our relationships become murky because we see through the eyes of an angry, resentful, shameful person. So it colors our world until we let go, till we make the choice. Because I always say forgiveness is a choice that you make for yourself.
Absolutely.
Not an
And so
easy
when you made the decision that you were going to forgive your father and forgive the women that didn't protect you, was there an aha moment that you did say in the YouTube introduction that that there was a man that came into your life that was very special and really made you wake up to that? Was he kind of like your aha moment, like you call him your angel? Or was there
No, he
something
wasn't
else?
the aha moment about the forgiveness. He was the aha moment about me being able to change my life.
Yeah.
So he started he started my elevation, so to speak.
Making you
My
realize
going,
that you were worth it and that
yes,
you could do it. Yeah.
that I was worthy. I knew that in the back of my mind. So
Mm.
when he spoke it to me, it was like he lit something that was already in me.
Yeah.
Because he would always say, "You bigger than this. You're much bigger than this." And I knew that, but I didn't know how to get out of it. Sometimes all we need is somebody to take our hand and guide us. And they may not be there for a lifetime. They may just be there for that moment to get us through that phase. But that's what I needed. And the person that helped me, that opened the door to forgiveness, that made me see, it was a counselor. It was somebody
Okay.
in a rehab. I went to an expensive rehab. I was blessed to be able to go to a very good rehab to get off of drugs. Because when I was with him, I was still getting high, but I was clean now.
Yeah.
You could look at me. I had nice clothes. I had a good job, but I was still getting high. And so I decided one day, you know what? I don't want to do this level of getting high either. I may not be shooting drugs, but I'm putting it in my nose. So I just decided. And when I went to the rehab, the woman, when I was ready to go home, she said, if you think you could leave here after 30 days and go home with anger and resentment, you'll get high for the rest of your life.
Yeah, you'll be back to where
Come
you
home,
started.
it'll eat at you. She said, you have to work on this. And so she invited me to go to Minnesota for another 6 months to really do healing work, forgiveness work around my father, around my own life, you know. And I took her up on that. See, that's the whole thing. Doors could be open. You have to walk through them. You have to be willing to. And so I heard her and I said, okay, I'm gonna do it. And that started my process of going into therapy, of journaling, of being open, of being willing to forgive all of them. Because it was the women and him. It wasn't just him, and it wasn't just the women. It was a whole group of them. I seen all of them as one that did not protect me, a child, but protect a grown man. So it was a lot of stuff I had to let go of. And I decided that moment almost that I agreed to go to Minnesota, I was like, I'm coming back to New York a free woman.
Yeah.
Not just clean, but free in spirit.
Because did you feel like when you had that unforgiveness, that it was really heavy? It was really heavy in your heart.
It was like a cloud. I often say it was like a cloud that followed me everywhere.
Yeah.
A dark cloud. It colored, like I said in a previous interview with you, it colors your whole life.
Yeah.
It's like you don't see clearly, like you don't see the sun. You see it murky.
Yeah.
You can't laugh like a real laugh. Like I always used to say when my husband was alive, he gave me belly laughs. I couldn't belly laugh back then. I didn't know how to smile, much less laugh, really laugh, because I was seeing through those eyes of anger and resentment of you hurt me. They hurt me 40 years ago, or 20 years ago, or 30 years ago, or 10 years ago. They went on, they're going on with their life, and you still holding on to that vision.
Yeah.
That's,
And it obviously,
bondage.
yeah, and it took you, you said you went back for another 6 months, so it's a long process. It's not something
No,
that
in the
happens
6
overnight.
months, it didn't happen in 6 months. No.
Exactly. And so
It's like
that's just the beginning.
Yes, just like you, that I tell people all the time in my workshop, it's a process. You're not going to forgive something that hurt you that much overnight.
No.
Just be willing to take the step. And just like life will put people in front of you, opportunities, things will just start happening, and you'll become more open, like a blossom, like you'll start blooming. And you do not have to have the person in your life. I chose to have my father in my life. You don't have to speak to nobody to hurt you. That's your choice. It doesn't mean because you forgive that you're letting them off the hook. It doesn't mean that you have to sit down and break bread with them. It means that you are choosing to be free.
Yeah.
That you are choosing to get that memory, have that memory stop stinging you. Like I could see what happened to me, and it's almost like I'm looking at it on a screen and it's not me. Because that's how much work I have done around it.
Yeah.
Before I would cringe or feel some type of way, or would affect my sex life with my husband, until I really kept doing the work.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I could see it. If you ask me to remember, it's so vague and so far away that it's not attached to me. It doesn't. If it bump up against me, it doesn't hurt me. Back then, if you said something, if I smell something, I go back there.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Yeah.
No. And like you said, it is a choice that we make. And we can either choose that we're going to be happy and we're going to live our most joyful life that we can, or we can choose that we're going to hold on to something which, like you said, happened 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, and we can't change it. We can't go back. And so we can make the choice as to whether we move forward and we forgive those people. And like you said, you don't have to have them in your life.
You don't.
You chose to keep your father in your life. And and many others will. But if somebody has hurt you really badly, it doesn't mean you can just cut them off if you want to, but you need to let go of the hurt and the holding the grudges. And this is what your workshop teaches too when you do your workshops.
Right. I take them through processes and different energy work and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. The thing that has helped me. Yeah. I can't condense everything. I mean, it took me years, but I can start them.
Yeah,
and they can
that's
go
right.
From there. They can
and because
either work with me or work with someone else.
Yeah, you can guide them.
Exactly.
They have to.
I give them tools. Yeah, what I give them a treasure chest of tools that they can reach in there and get something.
Absolutely. And you did point out that forgiving somebody else doesn't mean that you're saying that it's okay. And I think that's a misconception that people have had, and that's why they say, "Oh, but I can't forgive them because look at what they did to me." But these people go on with their lives and often don't even look back because it's they're not in the same. Being a spiritual coach like myself and in the manifestation field, the energy is so important that's around you. And when you're holding on to emotions such as anger and resentment and fear and all of those emotions that we hold on to, then our energy field is so negative that all we tend to bring into it are other negative people.
Because we put out what we put out, we draw back. We're magnets.
Absolutely. And I think that this is one of the reasons why you've got to let this go, because the energy needs to be able to get back that lightness. And we're talking about that, the joy and the lightness, and making that choice that you're worthy of it is really, really important. So if we were to be able to give people some steps or some tips as to how they could begin to start the forgiveness process, what would be your top tips that could just get them started on it?
The first one is to get still, to
Mm-hmm.
get quiet, and to ask yourself how willing you are to
Yeah.
forgive. Are you, on a scale from 0 to 10, how willing are you to forgive? And
Mm-hmm.
look at that. And one thing that's vital about your healing process is journaling. Because when
Yeah.
you sit there and write, when you sit to ask this question, I want you to have a journal and write, how willing are you? And go from there. After that,
Yeah.
write a letter to the person. And you don't have to give this letter to them. I wrote many letters before I started. Okay, I'm going to take you step by step. Write a letter and you could burn the letter. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
give it. Write a letter with no intention. This is your dumping ground. This is your first part. If you never talked about it or never expressed the anger, act like they're there and just dump it on the paper
Mm-hmm.
and get it out. And write as many letters as you can. I wrote many. And then I had the courage to go to them, to go to my father and have a conversation, to go to my the women in my family and have a conversation. And one I never did and never will. I was
Yeah.
at peace with her being who she was, and I just let that go.
Yeah.
But those are the two steps. And then another one is you just sit down and just think about. A lot of my healing is through tapping and through meditating and seeing who you could be without this anger and resentment.
Yeah.
Just close your eyes and see who you could be without this anger, without the hurt, without feeling little. Like who I had to ask myself, who could I be without me feeling little? Who
Yeah.
could I be without me thinking that I was a peach or a dirt? Because that's how I felt. Who could I be without thinking I needed some drugs to feel good? And I had to see that in my head. And you know about manifestation. I had to
Mm-hmm.
see who I could be.
Visualization. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then whatever you come out of those three things, take baby steps. If you
Yeah.
need to talk to a counselor, a therapist, because I did. I had years of therapy, not constantly. But when I felt like I needed to dial back in, like I'm not in therapy now, but I have one on redial. If I need to go back, I go back. I really believe in healing on all levels.
Yeah,
And
when you talk about the journaling and the writing the letters, I think the writing the letters are really, really powerful.
It is.
Because there was somebody in my life that that I knew I had to forgive, and I had no intention that I was actually going to give him the letter, but I sat there and I wrote everything on paper, and then burnt it. And the level of relief that I felt afterwards was incredible. And what I found was that when it comes to forgiveness, as hard as it can be sometimes, I think recognizing that everybody has their own challenges that they're going through, and that you can't really know what somebody's going through until you're going through it like them. And none of us are perfect, and we do make mistakes, and some of them are horrific, but at the same time, they're all lessons. They're all experiences. And I believe that God doesn't put us in any situation that he doesn't think we can handle.
I believe that.
Yeah. And so I think that,
about that.
yeah. And so I think that if we have faith in God, and we have faith that whatever happens to us is a learning experience, and it's something that we have to take something from. And forgiveness and forgiving the other person is also recognizing that, okay, they've made a mistake, and you need to forgive yourself as much as you need to forgive them. And so you managed to learn to forgive yourself for the errors that you had made.
Yes.
And so, so how long did it take?
Like I said, forgiveness is like an onion. You're peeling it.
Yeah.
You're looking at them. You're looking at yourself. Because if you have to be able to forgive yourself to forgive. It's almost vice versa. If you
Yeah.
want God to forgive you, you have to forgive them.
Yeah.
Or start with entertaining the thought to forgive them. And then it comes about you. Because I
Yeah.
had to look at me. Okay, he wasn't a perfect father, but what kind of mother were you?
Mm-hmm.
I had
So
to
you
ask
put
myself,
yourself in the same,
hello.
yeah.
Okay, we throwing stones here. I might have not molested my children, but I abandoned them for some drugs.
Yeah.
So I had to really take a look at that. And for years that way, when I talk about bump up against something sore, that was a sore spot. Until I had to maybe 5-6 years ago come to a point of peace that, you know what, I did that. I'm not the best. I wasn't the best mother. I'm the best mother I could be today if they're open for it.
Yeah.
One is, another one isn't,
Mm-hmm.
and one is up for adoption. I just pray for him. I don't really know where he is,
Yeah.
but that part took years. Because you know the mother role, child. If you're not a good mother, you're gonna
Yeah.
burn in hell. So I had to live through that. But I forgave myself. And
Yeah.
I'm the best grandmother. Like I said, I'm the best nana that I could be, you know. And I have a good relationship with my youngest daughter, who's like 43 years old, but I still call her my baby. But I had to forgive myself. It took years of talking and writing to me.
Yeah.
I have journals, letters to me, to the little girl in me, to the teenager in me, to the one that just abandoned her children, who left my son in the nursery at the hospital like he was nothing. I
Yeah.
had to let that go. You know the nights I have cried about that vision of leaving that child there, like, because I was numb. And this is what I want to say. And I think I say it every time. If you know anybody that's an alcoholic or a drug addict, please know that they are living in hell. They are not doing that for the
Because
heck
they
of
want
it.
to. Yeah.
They are in hell within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Something is eating at them. It may not be incest like it was for me. It may be something else. But nobody abuses themselves with drugs and alcohol for the hell of it. They
Yeah.
got something.
They're
else.
trying
That's
to
just a
hide it
tidbit. Yes. They're
and
trying
bury
to soothe something. Yeah.
it. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that's fantastic. I think you have given so many great tools, Doretta, for if somebody is dealing with not being able to forgive somebody or feeling like they can't forgive somebody, or if you don't feel like you can forgive yourself.
Yeah. A lot of people feel like they can forgive themselves. It's not even about anyone else. They
Yeah.
still hurt, oh, I didn't, I did this to my child, or oh, this, or oh. No,
Yeah.
you gotta forgive. You can't
You've got
go
to
back.
realize that nobody is perfect. We all
Nobody.
make mistakes. No parent is perfect. So there's no book written to be a parent.
It's not.
So, give yourself a break and
Mhm.
realize that, you are worthy. And it all comes down to self-worth. And it
It
all
really
comes
does.
down to the amount of love we have for ourselves. And once you start to really love who you are and recognize all your amazing qualities and recognize that you are worthy of love and friendship and support, and you don't need all the external drugs and alcohol as we talked
Exactly.
about. And
Hmm.
forgiving yourself, do you feel like that's a first step to being able to one of the first steps to recovery as well? Is that something that plays a big part?
I gotta think about that.
Mm,
Yes, I do.
yeah.
I think that was a big part of it. My relationship with God and me
Mm-hmm.
forgiving myself.
Yeah.
And when I
Absolutely.
was able to forgive myself, I could open the door to forgive him, even though other people couldn't understand it. And I didn't really care about other people
No,
understanding it. I didn't.
no.
I still
It's
don't.
no,
Like I
and it's
laughed
what
at my father, I talked to my father, we talk about politics, and I see the good part of him because
yeah.
he had two sides. He had the part that he shouldn't have did, but he had this other part that was a great father who
And
treated me really
you
respectfully.
focus on the good parts in him
There you
and
go.
recognize
Yes.
that other stuff was the mistakes that he made.
Mhm.
And it doesn't say that he is a terrible person, because like you said, he's got a good part to him as well.
Mhm.
And not everybody can see that. And if that's the case, then maybe that person is somebody that you may not have in your life.
Mhm.
But forgive.
No,
And
I allowed them to be the way they are. I
yeah,
really do. Like my husband, I understood
yeah,
where he was coming from.
Yeah,
He's
totally.
not walking my steps. It's not his father.
No, and you know what?
See what I'm
If it also puts you at peace, and that's the thing, because if it was going to cause more tension and more angst within you to not make that connection with your dad again, then it's important that you do make that connection.
Exactly.
Because you want to feel that lightness. And like we said, everybody is different. So how you may handle it will be different. But
Exactly.
but I think that you have given them some incredible content today. And I really do thank you for being on the summit and
Thank you for having me.
sharing your story, which is incredible. And you have lived for 26 years with the AIDS diagnosis, and you are kicking butt, Doretta. And you will continue to do so.
But you know what? That's mindset. Because when I watch the people, what did that woman tell me? She said, what if you could entertain the thought that you could live through this pandemic? And that was all I needed, was that invitation. Give me a positive invitation, honey. I'm taking it. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, I know unity. Unity is about what you see, what you feel, what you think, you become. I've said from that moment, I will live through this pandemic. I don't know about nobody else. My sister died. I buried many friends. Most of the people I shot and drugged with are dead. I knew I would come through it because of my mindset. Your mindset is everything.
It is. It
and
is
the
absolutely.
Choices you make are everything. That it molds your life, your decisions and your choices. You decide not to forgive, that's molding your life. You decide to forgive, and you could decide to forgive and make it what you want it to be. It doesn't have to look like mine. It could look like what gives you peace, like Jennifer said, is what gives you peace.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And by the way, you look incredible for a grandma, Doretta. Absolutely incredible. And I think it must be that positive mindset.